Here's a computer that I've always wanted for some weird reason. It's an old Mac Pro. I've some eBay bidding later, and I've gotten one. So, I don't know. There's something cool about one. I've seen these around in like offices and stuff, and I've always felt they're cool design-wise and stuff. And I know they're really not great values. I got it for about $100 used, and it's a 2006 that I've played around with a little bit, and it's definitely showing its age, and it has its quirks, which I kind of like. I like kind of working around weird features and stuff. So, here's a look at the insides of it. If you've never seen a Mac Pro before, they're kind of an interestingly laid out system. So, first of all, this is a 2006 model, which is basically the same as a 2007. The 2008 was quite similar to, but did make some hardware changes. All of those first three are based off dual 771s. Now, dual 771 systems are, I'd say, stay away from them pretty much. They are quite power hungry, and normally the bit newer ones are not much cheaper and stuff. But that's kind of for home server stuff. For these workstations, these are a good amount cheaper than the 2009 and the 2010s, which were both dual 1366. And they are considerably faster, and you can put 6 cores in them instead of just quad cores, and it has better architecture, lower power, and stuff. And looking at them design-wise, they're kind of cool and unique in my view. So compared to most workstations, the memories on these, you pull out cards, which is super cool. Now, if you look at these, you notice they have these massive heat sinks on the DIMMs. And, yeah, so these are massive heat sinks. Normally, these are called FB DIMMs. They basically have an extra memory buffer on them due to a different memory architecture of the time Intel was using. It had its advantages, it had its disadvantages. It's pretty much gone for general use these days. I happen to have that same sort of memory in my other systems, and here's a standard stick of it. The difference is, this has barely no heatsink. This has a huge heatsink. Why does it need such a big heatsink on Mac Pro? And the answer is, those servers are designed for very loud fans. These are supposed to be pretty quiet. This is a surprisingly quiet system. And they have to put these extra heat sinks in. You can run normal DIMMs in them. They'll just rev the fans up or run very hot. I haven't played with that yet because this has enough RAM for my liking at 10 gigs. So it's 6 1s and 2 2-gig sticks. Moving on to CPUs. So the CPUs are under here. Since this is a 2006, you can put the CPUs of, I think, the 51 and the 5300 series Xeons in here. The 2007s have better software support, but you can flash these to a 2007, which I'm going to try doing later. I had a few errors. Dual CPUs under this heatsink, under this little shroud, which is a bit of a pain to remove. The thing with upgradability in general on these is there's a few things that are super easy to do because Apple made that easy, like the memory here that I showed. But there's some other things like the CPUs and stuff, which are quite a pain to get at compared to a lot of other solutions. Moving on. 2 big fans under here. This is a very quiet system. In total, you have 2, I think, 120mm fans here, an exhaust one here, and one for the power supply at the top. Drives-wise, you have 4 3.5-inch drive bays, which just pull out and give you your drive here. The kind of cool thing with how these are designed, pretty easy to use and work, I'd say, quite well. The only annoying thing is you can't put 2.5-inch SSDs in them easily, which is becoming quite common of a want these days. Other things, you have up to 2 IDE drives for the optical bays up here. Yeah, it took IDE drives still. And then you have a power supply up here, which was I don't remember the exact one. I think it's like a 6, 7. It's a pretty beefy power supply. None of it's ATX though, which is kind of annoying. And then you have slots in here for graphics cards. So you have a 16X, they're all 16X, and you can change how it's laid out in software, which is kind of cool. I wish more boards would do that instead of have kind of a fixed layout. But there you go. The annoying thing is the built-in GPU is a 7300 GT, which is an ancient GPU. The annoying thing with how these are designed is that they were designed to not work with standard GPUs with their full functions. Standard GPUs work fine. The problem is you can't see the macro, the firmware, like EFI and stuff. So if you want to see a boot menu or like the boot level, kind of like early OS diagnostics, you need an Apple GPU. So that's why I have this guy in now. I want to put something faster. And I guess my options I have laying around now is an NVIDIA Quadro 5000 and a Radeon R9 270 that I have. Wait. And this is my 270. Both are mid-range GPUs from a couple years ago, but both perfectly fine. I'm probably going to be using stuff like Final Cut, maybe some basic games and web browsing on it. Nothing too exciting. The thing is, I need to get Powertron. That's where some other part I recently got for this guy came from. I got this guy I used a little bit ago, and they are the power adapters. These are actually super cheap on Amazon now, but they're essentially just power cords that let you plug normal graphics cards in, up to dual 6 pins, 8 pins really weren't common back then, into the Mac Pro's power. Which, that's cool. They have little power headers buried somewhere far in the motherboard that let you plug in arbitrary graphics cards in here. Back in the day, graphics cards really weren't as big and powerful as they are now. And that's what you see with the Mac Pro. I kind of liked, I wish they'd adopt that, where the power is actually built into the motherboard. That's what they did on the new Mac Pro, but this one was built before that. So, you don't have any power built in. So you have to have these little cords. The new Mac Pro also has the same sort of, you gotta buy cables for it. Which, in my view is kind of annoying. I wish they'd include them, but they don't. Let's give it a shot. I got the 2 cables plugged in. They're kind of annoying to get in due to how they're trying to hide the connector. I do notice Apple seems to put a lot more kind of thought, I guess, or they just want to hide stuff a lot more than most other brands. Like, most of the cables are hidden and things like that. So it's just cleaner looking, I'd say, than an average kind of Dell, HP, Lenovo workstation. Which, I think's kind of neat. Oh, one other thing, OS-wise. Yeah, so these are not supported by Apple, which is fun. So you can't run the latest version of OS X. And the latest officially supported was 10.7, which came out a long time ago if you're not a Mac OS user. The issue with 10.7 is they haven't supported it in forever, and it's basically useless. 10.7 is basically useless. The other nice thing is people have found a way to hack on 10.11. And the way you can hack on 10.11 involves a slightly modified bootloader, because these had a 32-bit EFI, and most OSs, and after 10.7 they started requiring the 64-bit EFI. 10.11 was the last one to work, because after 10.11 they started requiring SSE 4.1, which this CPUs that are compatible with this system don't have, so there's no way to get it to work on here. Luckily though, other OSs, pretty much any Linux distro should work fine on here. And any modern-ish Windows works. The one annoying thing of Windows is that you have to be aware of is I can't seem to get it to boot from a Windows USB stick, so you have to install it on the drive on another system and then boot it in here. But that works fine, and then you have to deal with the fact that you can't see the boot menu. And also, because it doesn't show up as a supported OS, you have to see the boot menu to change it, and you can't get Boot Camp utilities and drivers to work on there, which can be a bit annoying too. Well, it's plugged in and operational, and that's a bad sign. So I don't know how well you can see it on my CRT, but this is awful. So if I try to do something like open a Finder window and move it, is it going to do it? Yeah, you see how the top is just acting weird? No, 7300 GT is an awful card. And the only reason I'm using that now is if I go into System Profiler, System Information, it says no text loaded for the R9 270. And my bet is it just came out after 10.11, drivers were never made, and Apple's mentality is if you want to use this graphics card, run a newer version of OS X. And you were never designed to run it on the system. Well, I don't really have a choice of doing that, so my only other option is use the older OS. Use a older graphics card. The problem is, when it comes to older graphics cards, this is the only one. This Quadro I have is really the only graphics card I have that's reasonably fast. So, that's what's going in this system now. Time for another hardware upgrade. Let's put the different GPU in. I'm pretty sure this Quadro 5000 works fine in 10.11. Man, this is annoying. The one thing that Windows does that's kind of nice is it separates drivers from OS versions pretty well, whereas Mac OS X and Linux don't really do that, and they're kind of in the mentality of if you want the new drivers, you should be running the new OS anyways. Whereas, like, those modern graphics cards getting support for Windows 10, and you can't really say that about Linux. And running like Red Hat 5, or I think CentOS 5 is Windows 7 era, maybe 6. Yeah, it's the slots. The new Mac Pro made the slots better. I'm glad about, because these are annoying. I really like the new Mac Pro. It's just they're expensive, and I hope they get cheaper soon, because those prices aren't making me happy. I guess these only took, 12 years to get cheap. We got the new GPU in there. It's running. It has its fan spinning, which normally means the power is plugged in correctly. And now it's time to wait for the OS to boot enough to actually load and initialize the monitors. Well, it's fully functional again. The only weird issue I have with this is it gives me a bogus display, like an 800 by 600 screen that doesn't exist. Luckily there's a program to disable that. It's not really an issue, but it's kind of annoying. I wish the faster GPU would have worked, but it doesn't, so... Well, looks like I'll be using the Quadro for a little bit. I'll let you know how the system is. I might do an update to say kind of how this guy works for doing, because I'm kind of going to try running Final Cut on it and see how that goes. But subscribe for more updates about Mac Pros and other electronics.